What does it really mean to do the right thing? Is it following rules, obeying your conscience, or challenging the system when it's broken? In a world filled with gray areas where morality bends under pressure and doing good often comes at a cost, how do we know what's right? Today, we dive into the uncomfortable, beautiful, and often paradoxical nature of ethical choice. Because the truth is, doing the right thing isn't always obvious, and it's rarely easy. But maybe, just maybe, it's the one thing that defines who we truly are when no one's watching. Integrity is the foundation of inner peace. You ever lie in bed at 2 a.m., wide awake, not because of noise, not because of stress, but because something just doesn't feel right? You replay a conversation, you remember what you did or didn't do. The world outside is quiet, but inside, there's unrest. Funny, isn't it? You can fool everyone else except yourself. You can't Google your way out of a moral dilemma. We like to think we can compartmentalize, that our actions exist in neat little boxes. But the truth is, we carry them. Every time we betray our own values, even just a little, we leave a crack in the foundation, a small compromise, a glance away when we should have spoken, a silence where courage belonged. And over time, those cracks grow. Doing the right thing isn't about being perfect. It's about being aligned so that your mind, your heart, and your actions are all pointed in the same direction. That's where peace lives. Character is destiny. Imagine you're given a choice. One path promises quick success if you just bend the truth a little. The other is slower, uncertain, but honest. No one would blame you for taking the shortcut. In fact, most people do. But what if that one small compromise isn't just a decision, but a direction? Every choice we make etches itself into us, not just in outcomes, but in who we're becoming. That's the hidden cost we rarely talk about, the self that's being shaped while we're chasing results. You don't wake up one day with a strong character. You build it, brick by brick, decision by decision. It's forged in those invisible moments when no one is watching, and no one will ever know. And here's the paradox. It's not the big, dramatic acts that define who you are. It's the small, almost forgettable ones. Telling the truth when it would be easier not to. Treating someone kindly when no one expects it. Doing the right thing when there's no reward attached. Your character becomes the compass that guides you when things fall apart. When there's chaos, it holds. When there's pressure, it doesn't bend. And that's why character is destiny. Because eventually, life tests everyone. And when it does, who you are will matter far more than what you know, what you have, or how smooth your plans looked on paper. It's not about being flawless. It's about being faithful to your own deepest values. That's the kind of strength that doesn't crack under the weight of real life. The right thing is often the hard thing. Why is it that doing what's right so often feels like walking uphill against the wind alone? There's almost always an easier option. You could stay silent instead of speaking up. You could turn away instead of stepping in. You could do what's expected instead of what's right, and no one would call you out for it. Most wouldn't even notice, but you would. Right rarely feels convenient. It demands something of you. Sometimes it costs you time, reputation, comfort, but it gives something back too, something no shortcut can offer. It gives you weight, not heaviness, but substance. People can feel it when you walk into a room. It's a quiet kind of strength, not loud, not self-righteous, just solid. Doing the right thing, especially when it's hard, is how you earn your own respect. It's how you become someone you can trust, even when life gets messy, even when fear whispers in your ear. And in a world that often rewards the fast and the clever, there's something deeply radical about choosing what's true. Truth has weight. Lies leave residue. He was 11 years old, clutching a crumpled test paper in sweaty hands. The grade was low, lower than he'd ever brought home before. His parents always expected more, so he did what felt easier. He forged the signature. The pen shook as he copied each letter. It looked close enough. He shoved the paper back into his bag and told himself it was harmless. Just this once. But that night, something changed. He couldn't meet his parents' eyes. The food tasted dull. Laughter felt forced. It wasn't the mistake that hurt. It was the lie. That boy grew up, but the feeling stayed, because that's what lies do, even the small ones, especially the small ones. They linger, they rot in quiet corners. You carry them into rooms where they don't belong, into relationships, into decisions, into who you believe you are. Truth isn't always gentle. Sometimes it burns, but it doesn't haunt. There's a reason you feel lighter after confessing something hard, or when you finally tell someone how you really feel, because truth clears the air, lies fog it up until you can't see yourself clearly anymore. In relationships, truth is the ground everything stands on. You can love someone deeply, but if there's dishonesty underneath, that love will wobble. It's unstable, like trying to build a house on shifting sand. At work, in art, in love, truth builds trust, and trust builds everything else. Doing the right thing often means telling the truth, even when it's inconvenient, even when it costs you admiration, approval, or advantage. It's not having to remember which version of yourself you were pretending to be. The truth might not always make life easier. Doing the right thing sets the standard for others. Someone is always watching, not in a paranoid way, but in a quiet, human one. When you choose to do the right thing, especially when you could get away with the opposite, you give people silent permission to do the same. Integrity raises the bar. Courage cracks open a little more courage in the room. We often underestimate how powerful our smallest actions are. Defending someone who's being dismissed. And while the world doesn't always reward goodness right away, and more importantly, it mirrors it. Doing the right thing isn't just a personal ethic. You set the temperature, whether you mean to or not. The world chases what's shiny: youth, status, trends, the right clothes, the right opinions, the right angles for a photo. But all of that fades. What doesn't? The way you treat people when there's nothing to gain, the promises you keep when no one's checking, the quiet, consistent alignment between what you believe and what you do. That's integrity. And it doesn't wrinkle, sag, or go out of style. You see it in the eyes of someone who's lived a long life and still lights up a room, not because they're loud or impressive, but because there's a depth to them, a steadiness that can't be faked. And you can spot the opposite too, someone who built their life on image but not substance. When the applause fades, there's nothing underneath. We live in a culture obsessed with reinvention, but the most magnetic people are often the ones who never changed their values, even when everything else shifted. Integrity isn't about being old-fashioned. It's about being timeless. Because when you live with integrity, you build something age can't touch. A name that means something. Not your resume, not your bank balance, but how deeply people knew they could rely on you. That's real legacy. Doing the right thing builds trust, the currency of life. You can be brilliant, charming, successful, but if people don't trust you, none of it sticks. Trust is the invisible thread that holds everything together. Relationships, teams, communities, and it's not built in grand gestures, it's built in moments. Moments when you choose honesty over convenience, when you keep your word even when it costs you, when you do the right thing, especially when no one would have blamed you for doing the opposite. Trust doesn't demand perfection. It demands consistency. Think about someone you deeply trust. It's not because they've never made mistakes. It's because you know they own them. They don't hide. They don't spin. They show up the same whether people are watching or not. Now think of someone you wanted to trust, but couldn't. Maybe they said the right things, but acted differently behind closed doors. Maybe they always had a reason, but never took responsibility. That gap between words and actions, that's where trust breaks. Doing the right thing isn't just about morality. It's about reliability. It's how people feel safe around you. It's how they lean in, let go, and open up. Because in the end, trust is the real wealth in this life. Without it, love feels fragile, work feels transactional, friendship feels performative. With it, everything deepens. It's a silent protest against a cynical world. In a world that often rewards shortcuts, manipulation, and self-interest, Choosing to do the right thing can feel like an act of rebellion. It's not loud, it doesn't demand applause, but in its quiet, everyday form, it's a powerful protest against the cynicism that runs so deeply through society. Consider this. The world tells you that everyone's out for themselves, that you have to push others down to climb higher, that kindness is weakness. It preaches that if you're too honest, too idealistic, too faithful to your values, you'll be overlooked, taken advantage of, or ignored, that everyone is playing the game, and if you're not, you'll be left behind. But here's the paradox. The more you align yourself with what's right, the more you stand out. Doing the right thing is a refusal to accept a world where greed, manipulation, and dishonesty are normalized. It's a refusal to become numb to human suffering, to injustice, or to the quiet erosion of our collective integrity. It's a quiet rebellion, a way of saying, I refuse to let this world define me by its lowest standards. I will be better than this. The beauty is, you don't have to shout it from the rooftops. You don't need a hashtag or a platform. Just live it. In your choices, in your relationships, in your work, each time you act with integrity, you push back against the idea that everyone's the same. You become a living contradiction to the narrative that kindness and honesty don't win. And maybe, just maybe, others will see it and remember the right thing matters. And in doing so, you change the atmosphere around you. The ripple effect is real. Ever had someone do something so kind for you, you thought, that's exactly what I needed right now? Maybe it was a simple compliment when you felt invisible, or a moment when someone stepped in when you were too scared to ask for help. And you remember that moment. You carry it. It stays with you. That's how the ripple effect works. You may never see the full impact of your actions, but they travel far beyond your immediate circle. A small right decision made in the quietest of moments can ripple across countless lives. Think of a teacher who stays after class to help a student struggling with self-doubt. That student doesn't just leave with better grades. They leave with a restored belief in their worth. Maybe that belief lasts a lifetime. Maybe it sparks their own desire to help others years later. Or consider the simple act of someone listening, really listening, when you feel like no one sees you. That one person who chose to pause and truly be present could have been the reason you didn't give up that day. The ripple isn't always grand. It might not even seem significant at the time. But when you choose the right thing, when you choose to be kind, honest, or brave, it doesn't just disappear, it multiplies. And yes, you might never see where it goes. You might never get the reward or recognition. But imagine how many lives you've touched simply by being a person who chooses to live with integrity. That's the beauty of doing the right thing. It has a way of coming back to you, sometimes when you least expect it, in ways that are far more meaningful than any immediate payoff. It's how you live with yourself. What happens when the lights go out, when the applause fades, and you're left alone with your thoughts? In those quiet, vulnerable moments, it's not the opinions of others that echo the loudest. It's the voice inside you, the one that asks, did I do the right thing today? Did I live in a way that honors who I want to be? Doing the right thing isn't always about impressing the world. It's about how you feel when you look at yourself in the mirror, how you feel when you're alone with your choices, with your actions, and with the person you've become. Think about a time when you acted against your own values. Maybe it was a decision you regretted, a word you shouldn't have said, or a moment when you didn't speak up when you should have. The guilt, the discomfort, it lingers, doesn't it? It's not just the mistake that hurts. It's the sense of disconnect between the person you thought you were and the person you became in that moment. But when you do the right thing, even when no one else is watching, there's a quiet satisfaction. It's not about feeling superior. It's about inner peace, a sense of alignment that only comes from knowing you didn't betray yourself. You can achieve wealth, fame, and recognition, but none of it matters if it comes at the cost of your own integrity. The true prize is being able to look yourself in the eye day after day without shame, without regret, because at the end of the day, the most important relationship you'll ever have is the one with yourself. It connects you to something bigger. Have you ever stood on the edge of something vast, a mountain, an ocean, or even just a wide open field, and felt small yet somehow connected to everything? In that moment, you realize that you're part of something so much greater than yourself. That feeling isn't limited to nature. It's the same feeling you get when you do the right thing, even when no one notices. It's as if you align yourself with something timeless, something that exists beyond your individual experience, a universal sense of good, justice, and truth. When you act with integrity, you tap into that larger force. You stop living solely for the self. You become part of a bigger story, a collective narrative that stretches across time and space. It's not just about you anymore. It's about the whole. Every time you choose the right thing, when you stand up for truth, show kindness when it's inconvenient, or uphold your values in the face of pressure, you participate in a story that has been unfolding for millennia. You contribute to a legacy of those who chose good over easy, who chose connection over division. This sense of connection is what gives life meaning. It reminds you that, in the grand scheme, you're not alone. You're part of a shared human experience, one that demands each of us to rise to our best, to be a part of something greater than ourselves. In the end, that's the most profound reason doing the right thing matters. Let's summarize why doing the right thing matters. In a world that constantly pressures us to cut corners, follow the crowd, or put ourselves first, doing the right thing is a revolutionary act. It's the quiet act of choosing integrity over convenience, truth over comfort, and selflessness over selfishness. Each time we make the right choice, we build something lasting, something that can never be taken away from us. Our character. Doing the right thing isn't always easy, and it often goes unnoticed. But it is what allows us to sleep peacefully at night, to look at ourselves in the mirror with respect, and to know that we have lived authentically. Integrity doesn't age or fade with time. It only grows stronger. And though we may not always see the immediate consequences of our actions, they ripple through the world, shaping not just our lives, but the lives of those around us. Integrity builds trust, the essential currency in every meaningful relationship. It's the invisible bond that allows us to form deeper connections, to earn the respect of others, and to create a space where people can depend on us, even in the hardest times. Perhaps the most powerful reason to do the right thing, however, is that it aligns us with something greater than ourselves. It connects us to a shared human experience, a universal truth that transcends time and circumstance. When we choose to do what's right, we become part of a story much larger than our individual lives. So why does doing the right thing matter? Because it shapes the person we become. It molds the legacy we leave. It is a silent protest against the cynicism that often dominates our world. It is, ultimately, the foundation of a life worth living. The right thing might not always be easy, but it's always the most powerful choice. And in the end, that's the only choice that will matter.